Greetings everybody, and welcome to part 3 of my Power Rangers Lightning Collection wish list on the Terra Adventure podcast. And so today and tonight we are going to talk about what are my most wanted monsters by season of Power Rangers that I would like to see Hasbro do for the Lightning Collection. So far, we only have a few monsters from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as selected by mostly the first 2 seasons. Piranha's Head from Season 2, but we do have King Spinks, Pumpkin Rapper, and Eye Guy from Season 1. Not a single monster from Season 3 yet. But though, I will delve into some monsters that I potentially want to have in the Lightning Collection. But since Power Rangers over the course of 29 seasons have had so many monsters of the week that we've had over the course of the franchise's history from Mighty Morphin Season 1 through Dino Fury Season 2 currently. And, I mean, there's a lot of them. But be advised, though, this time around, unlike the last 2 wish list videos of the 4-parter of the podcast, I will not talk about what monsters from Dino Fury I will have and I would like to see in the Lightning Collection, because as of right now, I have not seen Dino Fury yet. But so basically, I'm only going to do monsters from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1 through Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 2 instead, because there's just so many monsters, and I'm just only going to pick one by one per season. So to kick things off, I will do all 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, not just the entire series as a whole, or just one monster from one of the 3 seasons, including one monster from the Alien Ranger saga. So for Mighty Morphin Season 1, and even Season 2 and Season 3, since Pumpkin Rapper and King Spinks have already happened, I have to go through one monster per 3 seasons, because there's just so many. Okay, so Mighty Morphin Season 1, since, again, like I said, Pumpkin Rapper and King Spinks were 2 of my most wanted figures from the Lightning Collection for MMPR Season 1, and Piranha's Head had already happened. I do want to delve into a Season 1 monster that I really want to see finally happen in the Lightning Collection, since we have, like I said, so many. And knowing the original series, there was over 50 monsters in Season 1, and about, if you count some of the Zoo 2 monsters, but for the monsters that we had from that adapted into Zoo Ranger in Season 1, you can tell. But Season 1 and Season 2 with the Zoo 2 stuff, the Zoo 2 monsters like Lizinator, Sacadillo, and the monsters, but there's just so many that I do want to see in the collection. So from Season 1 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, since Pumpkin Rapper in them has already happened, I'm gonna go with there's this one monster. I gotta figure this one out for Season 1, and it's one I always wanted. Madame Woe. Let's go with Madame Woe, because her figure would be interesting to have, since we're doing most of MMPR anyway for monsters right now, since there's a huge rogue gallery of monsters by Rita and Lord Zed, and whatever little monsters that Master Vile had hatched up to battle the Power Rangers during the 3rd season, and what little monsters that Master Vile had during the Alien Ranger saga until he left. But Madame Woe, I've always wanted as a action figure, because she was no surprise, because she was voiced by Lois Griffin herself. In that episode with Billy, Peace, Love, and Woe, that's probably why I chose her on my list, because she was one of my most predominantly interesting monsters in the franchise from that earlier point in the series. Okay, for a Season 2 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers monster, I'm going to go with Premator, because since we got Piranha's Head already out, I was thinking for Season 2 monsters, because there's so many of them, I would love to have Premator, because what I liked about Premator and his gimmick, as opposed to Madame Woe capturing the Rangers in her jewel necklace, and even Billy's first one-off love interest Marge, but with Premator from the Wannabe Ranger episode, Premator you know, he had a really great gimmick. He would imitate the Rangers, swap, you know, identities, you know, change his appearance from one ranger to the next, like if he wants to imitate Zack or imitate Billy. That's another reason why I want Premator in the Lightning collection for season 2. Because, you know, I am a sucker for a monster that has a gorilla gimmick for him, because he's just a must-have. As for Mighty Morphin season 3, and, you know, okay, since season 3 also had some good monsters as well, I would have to go with Master Vile's Ninja Globber, which is just a hybrid of Ninjor with the Globber. Because the Ninja, you know, again, Ninja Globber, he would absorb Ninjor's body with his self, and then also when he had his final form where he would, well, of course, you know, seeing his faces of the would-be alien rangers of Aquataro on it. Spoiler alert, I can't believe they even showed the faces of half of the alien rangers on Ninja Globber when we haven't even got to that point in season 3 Mighty Morphin yet. And again, Ninja Globber would be a great figure for the monsters in my collection, since, yeah, there is a lot of monsters from season 3 and Alien Rangers I do want, but okay, because I got my choices for season 1, season 2, season 3 MMPR with the monsters. Madame Woe for season 1, Premator for season 2, Ninja Globber for season 3. So I would like to go for that, because go with that match. And since there's like so many monsters I would love from Mighty Morphin, because, you know, Mighty Morphin, they did had some action figures for some of the monsters before, but not as prevalent for all the other seasons, though. But I do want to see more of Mighty Morphin season 2 and season 3 represented. But since we have a huge rogue gallery of Zoo Ranger and Zoo 2 monsters from season 1 and early season 2, so it'll be a while until any monsters that we did adapt from Die Ranger and Kaku Ranger for season 2, mid-season 2, all the way to season 3 being brought into the fray in the Lightning collection. Okay, so for my wish list for Power Ranger Zeo monsters from the Machine Empire, because again, there's over 48 or so monsters from the 50 episodes of Zeo, and there's just like, you know, again, Zeo did have a lot of great monsters under its belt, and I was wondering what that monster would be, and like, what is my most wanted monster from Zeo, because, you know, there was like so many of them. You got, you know, Cruel Chrome and Cog Changer and like I mentioned, Hydro Contaminator, and even Leaky Faucet and no monsters like that, and Mechanizer, because, you know, King Mondo, and even later on with Prince Gasket and Louis Kaboom, there were so many good, they had a good rogue gallery of monsters. I'll give the Machine Empire for that in Zeo. But I really want from Zeo for the monsters in the Power Rangers Lightning collection, and one that once had an action figure when Zeo was airing. And this one in particular, the one with the big giant rockets, Silo. Because Silo, I really want as a, you know, Lightning figure for the Lightning collection for Zeo monsters, alongside even monsters like Robo Cupid or Pollinator, because, you know, Silo has always been my number one favorite monster from Zeo because of his design. He's just a robot with 2 gigantic projectile missiles, and, you know, I would love to have him in my collection. Okay, then you get to Power Rangers Turbo and its wacky, whacked out, cartoony looking monsters, because a lot of the majority of the monsters from Turbo, you know, again, the problem with Turbo's monsters, they have been so wacky and ridiculous looking, and a lot of them just didn't phase it for me. Well, save for monsters like, you know, some of Divatox's monsters from Turbo, like Amphibitor. Oh, so that was the name of that monster. Shrinkasek, Numbor, and even the Chromite, you know, the Shadow Chromite, for instance, or the Speed Demon. But a lot of majority of Divatox's monsters didn't really do it for me, because, you know, one of the problems with Turbo when they even was doing that season, a lot of the monsters in Turbo, well, say for, let's say, Amphibitor, or even Shrinkasek again, or that female monster that made those Wicked Jackets or Flamites, those monsters I can tolerate. But every other monster we had in Turbo's rogue gallery of monsters hired by Divatox in Turbo, I was never really a big fan of. But again, they did have that wacky, cartoony monster design going for them, which did throw me off because, you know, given what was limited from the Sentai footage of Car Ranger for Turbo, what can you do with those monsters? So instead, I'm going to go for the more bigger bad, the more rather serious monster from Turbo. And no, it's not Megalodor because, you know, as much as I would like to see Megalodor, like I said before, if they're going to do Megalodor, they'll have him as like Dark Spectre. You can even impose him as Dark Spectre for your In Space collection if you like, or buy 2 of each of the same figure for Megalodor / Dark Spectre for both Turbo and In Space. But more rather, I would love to see them do a Lightning Collection monster figure of Gold Goyle from Turbo's finale. Now, given Gold Goyle and his appearance, Gold Goyle was supposed to be used for Dark Spectre in Power Rangers in Space, but it never came to be, or happened to be. Since they couldn't get his costume due to the fact that the original costume, when Toei was filming Car Ranger and when they wrapped it up, pretty much that costume has either deteriorated or was lost during transit. We don't even know what happened behind the scenes and why they never did got that costume for Gold Goyle that they could have repurposed for Dark Spectre. And so that's why they insisted on doing mostly, again, the Megalodor costume, since they couldn't get the Gold Goyle costume that they wanted, based on Car Ranger's final major big bad, Emperor Exhaustus. So that's why they had to settle with him. Yeah, but Gold Goyle, since he was only in Sentai footage for Turbo's 1 of 2 final episodes for Chasing the Space, he would work fine as my most wanted Lightning Collection figure because I really love his design. Because he was way more intimidating and menacing than all of Divatox's monsters throughout the last 45 episodes of Turbo. Because he, you know, what I liked about him was that he wrecked the Megazords, and yeah, the Rangers lost their weapons in the final fight with him. Because he was an formidable final boss for Turbo before the Rangers had to deal with Divatox's forces in part 2 of Chasing the Space until they lost the fight. Basically with Turbo pulling an Empire Strikes Back on us for Power Rangers, and you know, but I digress. But again, Gold Goyle would be probably my only Lightning Collection monster would-be figure of my wish list for Turbo, because he was actually more intimidating than all the other jokey looking cartoony monsters that Divatox had sent to fight the Rangers so far. Alright, so Power Rangers in Space, this is another season that also had a good rogue gallery of monsters, since Astronema did have a good rogue gallery of monsters to battle the Rangers. And while I would exclude Waspicable, since he's basically Grumblebee from Season 1 via Zoo 2, so Grumblebee, I would not include him in my wish list. I would love to have Grumblebee, but Grumblebee, Waspicable, how would you like to call him? But still, just like Megalodor, Dark Spectre. Okay, but there was like a lot of monsters. Now, I'm going to exclude the Psycho Rangers monster forms in this, because as much as I would like to have a monster Lightning Collection monster figure of, let's say, Psycho Red or Psycho Pink and their monster forms, or even Psycho Black's monster form. But there was like so many monsters, so many good monsters I can think of that Astronema had. Do I want Voltage Hog? Do I want the Body Switcher? Do I want that Spike monster from Astronema Think Twice? Or do I want Vaxsacker or any of those monsters that Astronema had? Because there were like so many of those monsters that I do like that I would love to see Hasbro do for In Space monsters for the Lightning Collection. So particularly, well, I was also going this close to do Tankenstein, but you know what? I'm going to do Voltage Hog, because Voltage Hog had a cool looking design to him. He was from that episode that was about Andros and the Andros dealing with those thieves that were taking Adele's van in that episode. because, Voltage Hog had a great design to him. He was basically, I don't know what kind is he is, a warhog with electricity powers. I don't know what kind of hog species he was. He's not a hedgehog or anything, or a warthog or a groundhog, but I guess maybe, one of those, because, Voltage Hog, he was interesting. He was an interesting monster in that pantheon of monsters that Astronomus sent to battle the Rangers. And yeah, I would love to have him in the collection. Okay, well, also from In Space, I would love to have Tankenstein also, since, after all, Tankenstein did destroy the Mega Voyager for my sake of trauma of seeing the Mega Voyager getting destroyed, but it makes sense now why he did that. Although Tankenstein was really a gigantic evil Zord for Dr. Hinlar and Mega Rangers episode final, but Tankenstein was, especially in his gigantic monster form, he was very massive in size compared to the Mega Voyager, or if not equal. But it felt like he was like 2 to 3 inches taller than, let's say, the Mega Voyager. But I would love to see him and Voltage Hog in the collection. But yeah, again, they still had like a lot of monsters I could think of that I want from Power Rangers in Space for the Lightning collection one day. But not sure if I want to collect every monster that we had from each season, though. And that's another thing I forgot to bring up. Although when they do all of these monsters, I'm not going to collect every monster they put out, because a lot of majority of monsters in the in Power Rangers over the last 29 years didn't really, most of them were okay. Some of them were, bad, but of course, aside from the good-looking monsters, it's just most of them just choosing these monsters by design and function and what their history was when battling the Rangers each week. Alright, so Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and the monsters from Scorpius and Trakeena's army, and probably whatever monster from Captain Mutiny's army. Because, okay, let's see. Now, Lost Galaxy always had a great pantheon of monsters from Scorpius and Trakeena's crew, but Captain Mutiny's crew of monsters was limited because, again, most of the monsters that we had in Lost Galaxy were all serving Scorpius and Trakeena's forces. That's why Captain Mutiny didn't have much monsters in his pantheon of his forces when the Rangers and Terra Venture were in the Lost Galaxy for a few episodes. That's why they only fought like Rocketron, the Nightmare Monster, and only the gigantic Goliaths of Grunshore and Titanosaur. Oh yeah, and don't forget that one monster that was unused from Beetleborgs Metallics that did made it into that clip show episode with Leo and Damon being under sunset until sunset. So basically, a lot of the majority of monsters from Trakeena's army on the side of her and Scorpius's forces in Lost Galaxy, they did have some interesting designs and also their storylines, and why I would love to have them in my collection. Although I do have Crew Mummy in my thumbnail for this video, but I feel like if I choose Crew Mummy, because, like I said, when I chose for villains last time, that for Lightning Collection villains, that I've always said I always wanted a Trakeena figure so bad, that for monsters would make sense for Crew Mummy. But I don't think it's worth choosing Crew Mummy, so I'll choose somebody else instead for the Lost Galaxy monsters on this list that I have, because, like, man, there's like so many monsters to choose from, like Chameleac and Fishface, or the Shark Brothers that worked for Trecheron and Shark Attack, or Freaky Tiki, or Miranda, or all of those monsters that worked for Trakeena. But Scorpius had a good fare of monsters when he was running the Scorpion Stinger 2, but Trakeena's monsters were mostly the best batch of monsters. Even though Crew Mummy, that was when she was still under her father's thumb and when he was making the cocoon for her and that. But yeah, I would love to see Crew Mummy as a Lightning Collection figure, because, well, I guess I'll go with Crew Mummy since his face is on the thumbnail of the video. But though I would love to have Crew Mummy in the collection, but there's another Lost Galaxy monster I definitely would also like to have, since considering Lost Galaxy Green is coming out, Cannon Brawl. All right, so Cannon Brawl would be a second monster that I would like to have from Lost Galaxy and the Lightning Collection, since I do like Cannon Brawl's look because of how rounded he looked, and given his history with Damon and with, you know, Damon saving High Council Rainier from Trakina and even the monster in the episode. So Cannon Brawl will be another good monster from Lost Galaxy I would like to have in the Lightning Collection. And then a third monster from the season, especially her most powerful one, Magnetox. Because, you know, Magnetox also was interesting in his own right. And, but yeah, you know, Magnetox would be great to have in the Lightning Collection for Lost Galaxy monsters. So those are the three monsters from Lost Galaxy I would love to have in the Lightning Collection: Crew Mummy, Cannon Brawl, and Magnetox. Okay, then you go into my list for, you know, or my choice for a wish list of a monster or two from Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, because Lightspeed Rescue and its monsters, you know, some of the monsters they had were memorable, and others I forgot even existed, or I just, you know, yeah, they were always there, but I don't think most of them were, most of the demons as monsters, especially like whatever monsters were hired by Olympius, were all interesting, like Freezered or so. But Diabolico had a good fair share of monsters too, but I guess I would have to go with Magnivore. But which version of Magnivore for Lightspeed Rescue monsters and potentially in the Lightning Collection? Either the regular Magnivore or the red version of Magnivore, because I'm really torn between. But again, Magnivore, you know, when I looked at Magnivore, he was like the demonic monster version of Ecliptor, but if he also had the elemental power of lava and fire to him. And yeah, you know, Magnivore would be a good choice, you know, for a monster in my collection for Lightspeed Rescue monsters, because Magnivore did at one point had an action figure during Lightspeed Rescue's original toy line 22 years ago. So it would be nice if they did Magnivore again, because he was the first monster the Lightspeed Rangers dealt with before they dealt with any of other of Diabolico's monsters before he was done. And then we went to Olympius and his monsters. Queen Benshira didn't have no monsters of her own once she merged with Vipra, so skip that. And so most of Diabolico had a fair share of monsters, so again, go with the first monster he fought. You know, he sent the Battle of the Rangers in Mariner Bay, in the city of Mariner Bay, so Magnivore will be my choice. Okay, so monsters from Power Rangers Time Force, I'm going to exclude any of the robots that Frax had, like Doomtron or Dragontron, so they don't count. I'm only going for like mutants that were like either mutants from Rancic's side of the prison or mutants that Frax got from the X-Vault part of the mutants prison. Because, you know, the X-Vault villains, the X-Vault mutants mostly, except for Nauticon, since Nauticon didn't really do much dangerousness aside from, you know, of course, Trip taking a stand before him. Because for a mutant who didn't want to fight for the other mutants, and also given the prejudice he was given. But, you know, the X-Vault had a good fair share of mutants, and, well, even though there was one mutant, X-Vault mutant, that was really more of a robot than anything, but I'm going to choose him anyway. Artilicon was, you know, Artilicon I would love to have for a monster figure from Time Force for the Lightning Collection. I just really like Artilicon's look, and because of his militant, you know, appearance and how he can also fly, even though his entire body is mostly this big giant head and stuff. And he was very intimidating. I'm not sure whether animal he was based on to be a robot, mutant, hybrid, X-Vault, you know, monster. But I would love to have Artilicon in the collection because he was just so formidably dangerous in that photo finish, that full exposure episode. So that's my pick. And then probably another monster from the X-Vault from Time Force, Vexicon. Now, Vexicon would be a good figure to have in the Lightning Collection Monsters line for Time Force one day, because Vexicon, he was, you know, since he was our first X-Vault mutant to come out, by Frax to battle the Rangers in the city and do a lot of bombing and stuff. Vexicon was very dangerous, so that's why I even like his look and his design, and a mixture of red, white, and green. Basically, those are just like Mexican colors and even Christmas colors. But he also had all these other color schemes going on for him with some blues and yellows around his design. But again, Vexicon was, Vexicon would be great to have as a monster figure. On with the orgs in Power Rangers Wild Force, since, man, there's like so many orgs from Wild Force. Like, you got the Bell Org, the Turbine Org, Toy Org, Bus Org, all of those orgs based on certain, because they, given the overlying theme of certain Earth objects that the org monsters were based on in Wild Force. And so many of those monsters were, very unique, because basically Wild Force was like the last season of Power Rangers where I actually gave much of credit for monsters with unique designs, because a lot of the monsters in Power Rangers, starting with Ninja Storm, once I get to that, and while talk about why I never really cared for the monsters from Ninja Storm and onward that much, is because given how sophisticated and overly designed most of those monsters but I would like to have some of their figures, or one of them, because there's just not a lot of monsters from Ninja Storm onward that I was a big fan of. So I have to be picky once I get to Ninja Storm and the rest of the seasons. But Mighty Morphin Season 1 through Wild Force had some of the best looking designed monsters, because they were more simplistic and stuff, and I can get behind some of their aesthetics and themes. So there was like a lot of monsters from Wild Force. There was like a lot of org monsters from Wild Force I liked as well. But there's just so many of them. You got like Scooter Org and, Samurai Org and, Ship Org and all of them. But it's just like, man, which one of them should I choose for Wild Force for the orgs, for the monsters for it, though? I mean. Okay, well, I guess I will go with, Motorcycle Org. Because, like I said, back when I chose the Wild Force Yellow Ranger for my next would-be Lightning Wishlist Ranger figure for the Lightning Collection for Wild Force, now it makes sense for Motorcycle Org, and why I chose him is because, given his history with Taylor, since when Taylor was a Power Ranger for a year, it would make sense to do Motorcycle Org, since he had two different forms. One when he was just a scooter, and then when he became upgraded as a more mature Motorcycle Org. And when he was really dangerous with the Yellow Ranger then, given her year of experience of being a Ranger, and when she was the first to discover the Animarium and her Wild Zord of the Eagle, and yeah, because even when she was working solo before, she relied on the other Rangers. So Motorcycle Org is my choice for a monster from Wild Force for the Lightning Collection. And when that team is done, and once we get through all the other monsters from all the other seasons afterwards. Okay, now on to all of the Power Ranger seasons, starting with Ninja Storm that I mentioned, with the most complicated looking monster designs imaginable. So we start with Power Rangers Ninja Storm for one pick of monsters, because, man, now looking at the monsters for Ninja Storm through Beast Morphers, since I said I'm going to exclude any monsters from Dino Fury, since there's not a monster that I like from that season, because I haven't seen Dino Fury yet, so I can't say otherwise for Dino Fury. So once I get to the end of the video with monsters from Ninja Storm through Beast Morphers, that will be it. Because now a lot of the monsters, I would say starting with Ninja Storm, most of the monsters and their designs would get very complicated that I would like to have, because, like, I don't know why, but still, Ninja Storm, and most of their monsters didn't really appeal to me all that much. Probably just one or two or three. But if I would go ahead and choose one monster from Ninja Storm that I would like to have in the Lightning Collection. Now, if they ever do Capri and Mara, mostly Mara's Lightning Collection figure, let's do all about Beevil. Because, Beevil was one of my favorite female monsters from Ninja Storm. Because given that the fact that Mara had a focus episode, with Dustin, the Yellow Ranger. So I figured, you know what? Let's do Beevil, because she was one of my favorite monsters from that episode of Ninja Storm, because she was just basically a monster version of Mara, and even if she was her somewhat quasi-competitor. So I hope one day, if we do get any Lightning Collection monster figures for Ninja Storm, Beevil will be my favorite. But by then, I'll be like an old man still collecting Power Rangers Lightning Collection figures by that point. I know, because we got so many monsters over the course of 29 years of Ranger history. And even when we were adapting a lot of these monsters from Sentai, and like, man, that's going to be a lot to sink in for the monsters. Alright, so Power Rangers Dino Thunder and the monsters they have there. Well, okay, well, like Ninja Storm, a lot of the majority of monsters from Dino Thunder, except for like that Pterosaurs monster, I believe, from, yeah, the Pterosaurs and did Pterosaurs 2. You know, basically there were only 2 or 3 monsters from Dino Thunder I actually liked. Because or 4, because there's 4 monsters from Dino Thunder, because this is going to be a little longer for them, so I'm going to make it quick. I think the first monster I would like to have from Dino Thunder would be Zeltrax's sort of, you know, surrogate son, Goldenrod. Because Goldenrod was very similar to Zeltrax by design, and since he wasn't really much of a permanent villain or anything, if he's really his son, then I would have to include the dad, you know, Daddy Zeltrax with Sunny Boy Goldenrod, if they ever created him in the Lightning Collection for monsters. But since we're, you know, like I said, again, it will be a long time until all these monsters do come out once all the Ranger teams are done. The second Dino Thunder monster I would like to see them do in the Lightning Collection is Megalodor from the Ocean Alert episode. Because, you know, I'm a sucker for a lot of majority of Power Ranger monsters that are based on sharks. You know, like the Shark Brothers and, well, Megalodor, for example. Because Megalodor was an interesting monster from Mesogog's army of monsters made by his randomizer, courtesy mostly of Elsa doing the monsters for him. But Megalodor was an interesting shark-themed monster, so I would like to have him in the collection if need so. In that stupid, weirdly bizarre episode called Leader of the Whack, Rojobot would be a great monster to have in my collection of Dino Thunder monsters, since he was, you know, he has the tentacles with whacking, you know, with wrecking balls for arms. So he will be another addition that I would like to have if they ever make him as a Lightning Collection monster figure for Dino Thunder, because he was interesting in a way. So yeah, I would like to go for him as well. And lastly, like I mentioned, the White Pterosaurs, or White Pterosaurs 2. Even though I said Pterosaurs, so forgive me with that. So, but there's 2 different figures of Pterosaurs, even though the second one is more dangerous from the Fighting Spirit episode. I would rather go with the regular Pterosaurus, because he actually looked way awesome that way, instead of with all that additional color. Nothing against the White Pterosaurs 2, but White Pterosaurs 1 was just basically a little bit of red for the face with the eyes and mouth, but everything else is all white and black with his design, since he's based off the White Ranger and his Dragozord, his White Dragozord. So therefore I would love to have the White Pterosaurus as a Lightning Collection figure. So those are my 4 monsters I would love to have from Dino Thunder for the Power Rangers Lightning Collection. Oh man, now once we get to Power Rangers SPD for my wish list of monsters from that. Now SPD had some interesting looking monsters, but a lot of them, well, since given the name of Space Patrol Delta being set in the future of New Tech City, you know, there's some monsters from SPD that I think were most noteworthy for me that I would like to have in the collection. Maybe 2 of them. Because, one, you got Rhynix. Rhynix, I think? Yeah, Rhynix. Because Rhynix, since I already have SPD Pink in my collection, Rhynix would be a great, you know, pick for me right there. To have in my collection, because, you know, I like monsters from Power Rangers that have a rhino theme to it. Because what I liked about a lot of majority of Power Ranger monsters like I forgot to mention back in Mighty Morphin, in my Mighty Morphin portion for this, is that the monsters were always based on certain animals or sea mammals and certain things like that, and sometimes random objects, you know, that you have on Earth. But mostly animal-based monsters like rhino, lion monsters, fish monsters, shark monsters, elephant monsters, you know, those type of monsters by animal species. You know, Rhinox would be a good, you know, would be a good figure to have in the Lightning Collection for monsters for SPD, so that way I can have, you know, my SPD Pink Ranger battle Rhinox in the collection. And of course, since I have the Shadow Ranger, since General Banog, given his history with Doggy Kruger, he will be another good monster to have in the Lightning Collection for SPD, because General Banog, I always liked his look, you know, and given his color balance of black, red, and green, and also how wickedly evil he looked. So yeah, he's another monster I would like to have in the collection. And I don't know what other monster left. I guess I'll probably go with one more. Probably, since you know, Devastation and Shorty. Since those two are brothers, I'm going to include both of them if they do a Lightning Collection 2-pack of the two monsters, but they will be very expensive though by that point. Devastation and Shorty will be good monster figure inclusions, so I'll go with that, with those two, and so those two would come to mind for me. Okay, Power Rangers Mystic Force, there were only like a few monsters from that season I did like, so I'll go with 3 of them. The first would be Flytrap, from that episode when Vita was a vampire for 2 episodes, or part 1 of 2 when she was, you know, when she was cursed to be a vampire, listening to that horrible DJ music given her character and her horrendous taste in DJ hip-hop rap music. So Flytrap will be a great monster for Mystic Force monsters for the Lightning Collection, because I do like his design, you know, since he's based on a flying Flytrap. So I'll go with him. Okay, for a female monster from Mystic Force, I would say Necroli's confidant from the episode Ranger Down, Screamer, because Screamer is a very formidable bird-themed monster that worked with Necroli, because, and also even when I listen to her voice, even though Terra Strong is too expensive a voice actress to be involved with Power Rangers, given, you know, SAG and all of that, and so, and the also voice actor union between the type of voice actors Power Rangers always employs versus voice actors and voice actresses in cartoons and video games that are part of that certain union of actors, voice actors. So Screamer could work. Okay, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive. Now, I never thought about their monsters, since a lot, like I said, a lot of the majority of the monsters they had in Operation Overdrive are based on existing Megazords. You know, their designs are based on existing Megazords that we had before Operation Overdrive, and some of the designs didn't seem, you know, like the monsters that they're echoing by aesthetic. But if there's probably about 2 monsters from Operation Overdrive that I would love to see as Lightning Collection, you know, figures. I would say the first would be the Bullocks monster. The Bullocks monster that's basically inspired by Magna Defender's Defender Tauros. Since I'm surprised that even when looking at Operation Overdrive's monsters from Moltor's forces, there's 4 monsters that were based on all 4 Megazords from Lost Galaxy on Moltor's forces of things, which is interesting that there was 1 monster that was based on the Stratoforce Megazord, 1 based on the Centaurus Megazord, 1 based on Galaxy Megazord, but the Bullocks monster is definitely obviously based on the aesthetic of that of the Defender Tauros, because it does look very reminiscent to it. Okay, so there's another monster I kind of would love to see them do for a Lightning Collection monster figure, you know, based on an existing Megazord from Operation Overdrive. I would say the the mutant version of Tyzon, because Tyzon's Mercurian form is said to be inspired by that of the Time Force Megazord's red mode. So Tyzon's Mercurian mutant form will be great to have as a Lightning Collection figure. Even whenever they get around Overdrive for the Mercury Rangers Lightning figure to compare with. Okay, everyone, now I gotta choose a monster or 2 or 3 from Power Rangers Jungle Fury, because since I only chose 1 or 2 monsters from Operation Overdrive, now on to some of Jungle Fury's monsters from Daishi's army and whatnot. I was thinking about 1 or 2 monsters that I would love to see in the Lightning Collection. Because there's like one in particular that has the name of like what should have been a Pokemon name, but or maybe 3 monsters, since I actually have 2 female monsters from Jungle Fury that noteworthy in my collection, and 1 male monster that I would like to have in my Lightning Collection. Even though, yeah, Jungle Fury may have like a lot of monsters that I can think of, like Buffalord and Toady and Grinder. You know, that monkey base monster Grinder. But if I would go ahead and choose my 3 most wanted Jungle Fury monsters, I would have to go with 1, Stingarella, because Stingarella, from that one episode when, you know, of course, well, it wouldn't make sense, so I guess I have to include Toady. But unfortunately, the image of Toady I have included will probably result in some content ID problems, so I'm not going to include Toady. But I'll just mention him when correlating to Stingarella, since I have a somewhat high quality image of her. So Stingarella would be another interesting female monster from Power Rangers I would like to have in the Lightning Collection, because, you know, Stingarella is basically based on a scorpion, well, let alone lady scorpion, if you will, and I like her color balance of all that red, and I believe some of it is like crimson black looking going for her. But, you know, hey, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for women in red, right? Because red is my favorite color. So yeah, Stingarella, that's another monster, another female monster with a red color scheme like Beetle from Ninja Storm I would like to have. And then Lepus, basically based on a leper. Lepus or Lepus, how do you pronounce her name? Yeah, she's another monster I would like to have from Jungle Fury as a action figure for monsters, because Lepus, you know, her design started to grow on me a little bit, even though she probably only appeared for like 2 episodes, and then she was gone. But then, Unidoom! I choose you! Unidoom! Oh, great. Yeah, I had to throw a bone to Pokemon right there. If Unidoom was a Pokemon and not a Power Rangers monster, well, yeah, because, you know, Unidoom. I just couldn't help but hearing his name every time, even when all those monsters that they got, like Rammer and Bad Rat and Lepus, did that roll call. I'm being reminded of Pokemon a little bit with that. So, Lepus, Stingarella, and Unidoom. Those 3 monsters right there I want from Jungle Fury in the Lightning Collection. Okay, then we get the Power Rangers RPM, since, you know, okay, RPM, given its post-apocalyptic aesthetic, and you know, as much as Go Onger's footage seems pretty silly, but in the context of RPM's more post-apocalyptic and darker tone and aesthetic, these monsters do fit the post-apocalyptic theme RPM was looking for. Even though some of them just feel out of place, like that one monster with all those inflated air balloons to them. But I would say that RPM did have a good, you know, slew of generation attack bots for Vengeance's army of the machines. So, but though, like Jungle Fury, there's about like 3 monsters. I mean, okay, attack bots, if you will. Don't call them monsters, because they're not really monsters in a sense. They're just, you know, attack bots, as they call them. So there's 3 attack bots from RPM I would love to see in the Lightning Collection. You know, for RPM. The first would be the Boom Bot, because he's based on, of course, a boombox, you know, like a 1980s style boombox. Since RPM likes to pay homage to some 1980s post-apocalyptic sci-fi fare like, of course, Mad Max and Terminator. So we got to go with something that was also a piece of paraphernalia of 80s pop culture. radio boomboxes. So a radio boombox like Attack Bot, like the Boom Bot, definitely would go for him. Okay, then there's another Attack Bot, Avengix Attack Bot I would like to have. The Dynabot from the debut of RP, Ranger Operator Series Silver and Gold. Dynabot. So the Dynabot. Now that sounds similar to a particular Transformers name term. Dinobot, or like either the Dinobots like Grimlock and them from typical Transformers, or Dinobot from Beast Wars. But it's basically Dyna, as in D-Y-N-A, Dyna, like, taking the prefix of the word dynamite. And then put bot to it to finish off that name. So yeah, Dynabot, he did look very intimidating because he does look similar to like Dinobot from Beast Wars, but for a Power Rangers robot themed monster. And also with the artillery rounds around him and stuff, he looked really wicked, and I would love to have him as a Attack Bot figure in the Lightning Collection Monsters line. And then even the Textile Bot, that Balloon Bot, which wasn't really all that. Because, man, RPM had like a huge... RPM had like quite a very fitting for that post-apocalyptic theme with these monsters, given their cartoony looking aesthetic, but they did look more mean and rugged looking as opposed to... But again, these monsters did fit that post-apocalyptic theme, although one of them didn't even fit right with the aesthetic they're going for. Okay, out with the Disney era and on to the Neo Saban era with some monsters from Power Ranger Samurai through Ninja Steel. Starting with Power Ranger Samurai and Super Samurai first, since... Okay, now the thing is with a lot of the monsters from Samurai, known as the Nylocks from Samurai. You got the Nylok Generals led by Master Xandred, and then you got the Nylok monsters themselves, or just simply Nylocks. The Nylocks from Samurai and Super Samurai, a lot of them they just don't appeal me all that much. So if I would go by one monster per the 2 seasons for Samurai that I would like to have in the Lightning Collection, one from the first season of Samurai, I would have to go with that one monster from the episode The Team Unites, that being Rofer. Because Rofer was since even though thinking back 11 years ago when Samurai aired, Rofer actually looked more visually appealing to me of all the Nylok monsters that the Samurai Rangers fought during the first season. I wanted to choose any Nylok that wasn't Negatron, with the whole him with the, negative talk and, all of that doubting yourself sort of thing. Or Dreadhead, or any of those other Nylocks of the week that the Samurai Rangers had to fight. But Rofer was from that Green Ranger episode that Nickelodeon treated was the first episode of Samurai, when really we should have gone with the real episode, but I digress. The real first episode, but I digress. But Rofer, I think at least wouldn't be a good Lightning Collection figure for him. On to Power Rangers Megaforce and Super Megaforce, since, man, now Megaforce may be one of the worst seasons of the show, bar none, and in recent memory, but they did have some good monsters though, and as well as some bad ones. But I'm going to go for who are my at least 2 or 3 monsters that I liked favorably from Megaforce and Super Megaforce. But unfortunately, when I was going through a lot of images of the monsters, I couldn't even gather any images of monsters from Super Megaforce, because most of the images you see here, I mostly downloaded some of these images from Morphin Legacy's website for the monster tabs for the Neo Saban era of monsters for Power Rangers, as well as some monsters from the Disney era side of things. But most of the majority of the monsters from Super Megaforce I couldn't be able to get any good quality images of, so I guess I'm going to have to stick with one from Super Megaforce and just ignore the rest. But there's 3 monsters from Megaforce Season 1 I like, that I would like to have in the Lightning Collection. I would have to go with another female monster from Megaforce, Bizarra, from that Girl Power episode about Gia and Emma's friendship, United We Stand. Because, I like Bizarra's design because she's a blue and white, fleet, what is she, fly-based monster or whatever. I don't know if she's a Wops based monster, but she's close to being either of those following. But Bizarra would be a good choice of a monster for Megaforce for the Lightning Collection. If they ever do any Lightning Collection Megaforce figures for yellow and pink for Bizarra, so I can take some photos of Megaforce Yellow and Pink's Lightning Collection figures battle Bizarra to emulate how it went down in that episode. So yeah, that would be nice to have. Or maybe probably a particular monster that was from that Pink Ranger episode, and probably a very Snorefest episode. Rico the Robot. I mean, you know, I kind of would like to have a Rico the Robot figure. You know, if in two different forms, since he had two, you know, he would come with two different heads, of course. You know, the only way to have Rico as his normal self before he went evil under the control of Metal Alice. But I would say Rico the Robot when he was evil would be a good head, you know, to swap out with the good head of Rico. Because, you know, again, they couldn't give him a good proper name because given, again, the sheer amount of bizarre form of laziness Megaforce was known for. But Rico the Robot and Bizarro would be my two choices for monsters from Megaforce. Now, from the Super Megaforce portion of things, I would say, because, you know, Cybax actually will be an interesting Lightning Collection figure for me to have from Super Megaforce. Either Takis or Cybax. Because, you know, I think Cybax will be a good figure. Because I like that he had two wielding dual guns and stuff like that. And, you know, again, he would be another monster I would like to have in my collection if they did him. Because given that it was from that pseudo tribute episode of SPD that they did, Earth Fights Back, so he would be a good figure if they did him for Super Megaforce. But then again, you know, as bad as Megaforce was, they did have a good rogue gallery of monsters, although most of them were probably as forgettable as the villains, though. But by their design-wise and stuff, they were pretty good for some of them. But although their characterization was pretty piss poor and basic and generic. Okay, so there's only about 3 more seasons left to talk about what monsters I would like to have in the Power Rangers Lightning Collection for Dino Charge, Ninja Steel, and Beast Morphers. Says again, I'm excluding Dino Fury because I haven't seen the season yet, nor have I ever checked out any of the monsters that I would like from that season for monster figures. So to start from the top from the bat with Dino Charge specifically, well, there's 2 monsters from Dino Charge I would like to have in the Lightning Collection for monsters. One in particular from the first season as well as season 2, Ice Age, because obviously he was the first monster that the Dino Charge Rangers fought. Because, you know, I actually like Ice Age. I like his design. I like how he was, you know, was less blue of him, more white. He was a cross between an abominable snowman meets a saber-toothed tiger of sorts, because that's the vibe I got out of this dude for his design, because he's like a cross between a saber-toothed tiger and the abominable snowman. That's why he's one of the most interesting looking monsters that they had in Dino Charge. And then speaking of a monster for Dino Supercharge I would like to have, now I know this is going to be a bit doozy, but with this one, Beauticruel. Now Beauticruel will be interesting to have as a figure, and I know for all the LGBTQ Power Ranger fans, especially over at Morphin Legacy, if they're watching, would probably wish that they would have Beauticruel from Dino Supercharge for a Lightning Collection figure. But I just wonder how they'll do her feathered boa around her, though. But also the wig piece, because I must wonder how they'll do a figure of her, since Beauticruel was probably one of the most what's the word I'm looking for with this word? Intrinsic, or no, that's not a word looking for her. But let's just say Beauticruel would just be a really delicate figure to have for her, you know, to have in the Lightning Collection for Dino Charge. Because since there's so many monsters Dino Charge had that would be interesting, even like the Cavity Monster and Spellbinder. Now, yeah, Spellbinder and Puzzler, Bones, all them guys, but I'm just going by 2 seasons, like what monsters I would have in particular, because, you know, Beauticruel and Ice Age are 2 of my favorite monsters. I mean, 2 monsters I would like to have in the Lightning Collection for Dino Charge. Okay, Power Rangers Ninja Steel, given the fact a lot of the monsters I haven't seen before in action, but if there's one monster But I would like to, include, since he wasn't included in like any of the Rogue Gallery photos I have here, Lord Draven from the Dimensions in Danger 25th anniversary episode. Now, Lord Draven, since he was involved in capturing some of the following Rangers for the 25th anniversary episode of Power Rangers, he will be a great addition, since after all, he made a massive army of the following Rangers. He made his clones. And he also wanted to break barriers into the Power Rangers multiverse in multiple dimensions, since we have the Prime Universe, RPM, and Dino Charge universes to save. So it would be great if they did a Lord Draven figure, but a lot of the majority of the monsters from Ninja Steel / Ninja, I'm not really a big fan of their designs, but Lord Draven will be interesting to have. Since he was straight from the Ninja, one of the Ninja movies that they adapted for Ninja Steel's 25th anniversary episode of Power Rangers, that would make it work. So I hopefully they should do Lord Draven. And finally, let's get the Beast Morphers, because like I said, I'm skipping Dino Fury for monsters at the moment. But Beast Morphers had a good cast of monsters of the week, or better known as mostly like Gigadrones and Gigatrons for Evox's army. But there's one in particular that I would like to see a Lightning Collection figure of, and that would be Drilltron, because I have the basic figure of Drilltron. I wish they would also do a Lightning figure for Vargoyle as well, since I also have the basic figure for him as well. But Drilltron most indefinitely. But though there's two different versions of Drilltron. Season 1 Drilltron was all blue and silver, while Drilltron from Beast Morpher Season 2 was, Drilltron 2.0 was red with some bits of, faded purple to his color scheme. But I would love to have a new Drilltron figure in the Lightning Collection, although I do, in fact, still have his basic figure in my Power Rangers collection from Hasbro, but a Lightning Collection figure of Drilltron would be interesting. But I must wonder if the drills should be rubber plastic or be sculpted onto like the basic figure was. But then again, I do want a Drilltron figure in the Lightning Collection, and how he'll stack up better than his basic figure counterpart. So that's it, everybody, because I know a lot of you were pretty much disappointed about my thoughts on a Lightning Collection monster figure for any monsters from Dino Fury. But like I said, I am not doing Dino Fury monsters, since there's not really much I can choose from for that season. So tomorrow, I'm going to do only the Ranger-like allies, like extra heroes, like Ninjor, Blue Centaurian type allies. I'm not counting like mentors, just as a heads up. So that's it. Until tomorrow with the 4th and final episode of this wish list 4-parter of the podcast. So I'll see you guys next time.